Hi, everybody. And so let's get the meeting started at 2:02. So I have not yet received the minutes from December 7th and 21st. Is that the way it should be?
I emailed to the COA board all the missing minutes.
You are kidding me.
No. Did you get it, Katie? What is going on with this group email? You know, I think I'm going to abandon it.
No,
I just put everyone's name in from now on.
Yeah.
Because
I did get the meeting minutes through my town email, which I think is what Janine intended.
Right. I don't have the capability that I can find to put it in the Dropbox, so I emailed it.
Okay, because I think that's one of the primary functions of having the Dropbox folder available is for the posting of minutes. So if Cindy's there, is there a particular glitch with Janine not being able to access the Dropbox COA board meeting minutes folder?
Hey, I'm here. No, not that I'm aware of. It's basically a permission thing. Refresh my memory. Did you set that up, Dennis, or did I?
No, I think Carolyn set it up.
I set it up.
So just check the permissions on those folders and make sure that she has access. And then
I
when
will,
she,
but I mean, and then the second question is, she said she sent the minutes to the board. I did not receive them.
but other
The
board members.
COA board group email, because I got that straight, that there's a COA that I was using in the past. No, that's not. So I used the COA board. I added it to my address book, and that's what I used.
Okay, did you get them, Dennis?
I did get them.
All right. I can check that alias again, but I'm pretty sure you're in there, Carolyn.
Okay, because like I said, I didn't receive them.
Now that's going to your town email address, Carolyn, not your
I
home.
understand. I understand that. I understand that.
Yeah, Carolyn knows that. She goes way back. I can check that right now, actually, but I'm pretty sure you're in there. Did you check your spam for it by any chance?
No, I did not.
Okay, well, I'll take a peek at that right now.
Okay.
Now,
So,
what about Carol Tillis? Did she receive them?
well, Carol Tillis does not do her town email.
Oh.
So
Well, that's a shame.
yeah,
I
I'm
put a
really
lot of
sorry.
work into those, and I went on to the town COA site, and I was looking it over because Katie and I were kind of going back and forth on some improvements she still wants to see. And anyway, I said, well, there is an improvement. I can see the agendas and the minutes really nicely now, and I can see which minutes are missing, so I can send them to everyone. And I did. And very limited results.
I'm sorry. I think, until we get this communications squared away, I think we just need to confirm everything. If I send out an email, I'd like confirmation from everybody. Yes, I got it. And if you send out an email, same thing, because I feel like communication is one of the things that we're not doing well. And part of it's the technology, so we should be able to fix that.
That sounds like a good plan, that if you don't get a confirmation from somebody, then either resend it a different way or just assume they didn't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in the short run, after a while, you don't want to be getting all these confirmations all the time.
Yeah.
I thought everyone had it and was happily reading them over the weekend.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, and so I don't, I may occasionally check my town of Ayer email, but I don't do it on a daily basis. If I happen to think of it, I might look at it, but I'm not looking to that on a daily basis to kind of get updated.
Well, I have to
Me
say,
either.
I think that we should be checking our Town of Ayer email regularly. I'm not saying every day. I do it about once a week. And I do it before meetings to make sure that the meeting isn't canceled or if they change the time or something. So that might be another thing to put on our schedules, is to just
Or-
check it in some sort of regular capacity.
Or every time we send an email to the town email, we can also copy to our personal email. Then, you know, then there's a greater chance that we will actually.
Well,
find it.
Dennis convinced me to keep town business on the town email.
Well, but we would, but we would also, but it's sort of like an alert to send it to your home email. You know, you're not really doing anything different other than making an extra copy.
I think keeping it simple is good. If we could get, you know, people just follow the same procedure, but also this Dropbox thing, you know, we got to solve that. So.
Yeah.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
excuse me, this is Cindy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other boards do that when they send an email out to the town email, they'll copy someone's personal email. And as long as you're not responding to anything from your personal email, that's fine. You know,
Okay.
because you'll get a copy of it in, you know, in each. And like you said, that could be just a trigger to go check your town email.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, so let's do that. Also, you know, to change the meeting date, because this communication has been a problem. Carol and I made sure we called everybody or texted everybody to let them know that we're going to meet the next week.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so so it's just Dennis and Janine that have read the minutes?
I
Katie
guess.
got them?
What's that?
Katie said she got them. She actually replied to me on the town email to say they looked good to her. So I don't
Okay.
know if Sister Paula got to see them.
Sorry, we're on mute. She has not seen them.
Okay,
So that's
I think-
another sort of supply chain thing here, is how we're
Right.
going to get Sister Paula a copy.
right.
So can we wait on approving the minutes till next? I don't think we have a quorum to approve the minutes. We've only got two.
I agree. And maybe, you know, if Sister Paul is down at the COA Center, would you mind printing out a copy of them for her, Katie, when they come through?
Sure, I can do that. Let me just, I can actually print them right now. Did they? Well, let's get them so that you'll have them, because you'll want to reprint them for next time too. So let's see.
All right, take your time, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and you know, Carol and I still haven't seen a copy, so we have to figure that out too.
What color?
Just run over to the center where they printed them out.
Everything but
Yeah,
that.
right.
That sounds like me.
We are so, you know, all of our neighbors have COVID right now. You know,
Oh,
people
my
across the
goodness.
street, the people next door, the people on the next street. It's like, this is the worst it's been, closest to us that it has been. So we're really hunkered down.
Same here. It's the most people I've known personally since this whole mess.
Yeah,
They're not necessarily on my street, but they're friends and family and acquaintances, the most I've ever known.
yeah, me too. Okay, so we will look at those minutes next time. I'm sorry, Janine, you know, I know that you work hard on them and you do a good job.
That's all right if we delay it. Thank you.
Okay. So director's report.
All right, hopefully everyone got a copy of that. I emailed that out before our meeting on the initial meeting on the 3rd or 4th, whatever day that was supposed to be. Since everybody hopefully had a week to review those, has everyone seen them?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then I don't necessarily need to read through them like I have in the past unless someone wants that on our recorded minutes here. Does anyone have a preference?
Sometimes in the past, we just did highlights, like
Okay,
something that you really want to bring to the attention of the minutes and the board.
okay. Well, then I guess that would be capital planning deferred the decision on the kitchen renovation until their next and final meeting on the 19th. Their main questions related to fire suppression requirements. So we had Chuck arranged for a company to come out and give a quote. That's obviously a fairly involved process. So the kitchen quote is up to about 112,000 now, and that involved ventilation going up to the ceiling, across the senior center, and out and up to the roof line of the existing structure. So what we're going to do for the meeting on the 19th is to have two options. One, which would essentially be the $112,000 to do the whole.
Can I just ask something? Is there any way to try to reduce the background noise? I don't know if the person can move further away or if you can close the door. It's kind of hard to hear you.
Yeah,
Office.
finding a place to sit is difficult. So
I hear you.
let me
Space was
put
one
on
of
the
the big
record,
things.
this is the reason we need more space, right?
And privacy.
So, sister, do you want to relocate over to the other room? Or do we want to try, there's no place even to sit in the other office. So why don't we move over into the other room real quickly? Yep, we'll move to the big room. We'll keep talking while we go. But-
Okay.
Okay,
so
I'm
you
up
were in the
to
middle
the
of saying
meeting
there were-
on the 19th with two options. Two
Yeah.
options for the meeting on the 19th.
All right. So we've got a group of Rummikub players. I'm glad to see them up and going. So that's a happy kind of noise I would love to have.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think what we'll do here is put this here. All right, whoa. And then let's just pull two chairs right on up here.
Thank you. You know, it's sort of different
Okay,
having,
that must be much better.
yes, yes. You know, over the internet, you sort of can't filter out the noise like you can if you're in the room and if somebody's in the background talking. So yeah, this is much better. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, all right, there we go. Okay, so so we're going to take two options to capital planning. One would be the full $112,000 that would involve the new stove, the new complete ventilation system, which is ventilation and suppression in one. The new triple sink, hand washing sink, stove, oven, and dishwasher. That's everything that would bring us up to a completely functional commercial kitchen. The option, if you don't go with the suppression system, is if you go with just ventilation, then I can't cook anything that produces grease-laden vapors. So I can't use, I could buy the stove, but I can't use it, right? So we would be essentially limited then to kind of what the first and initial plan was, which is putting in the triple sink and hand sink, which would allow us to meet the Board of Health code for triple sink, hand sink, and dishwasher, which would allow us to meet the basic code for preparing. Then that would allow us to chop foods and stuff like that, except we wouldn't be able to use the stove. We would only be able to use the oven. So it's kind of a tricky call for capital planning because $112,000 gets you what you want, but it's still going to be about 40 or 45,000 in order to basically use the oven, the existing oven that we currently have. So it's a
Which
big
sometimes
investment for that.
Which
I'm sorry,
sometimes doesn't
you
work.
lost me. So to just use the oven you currently have, it's going to cost an additional $45,000. Is that the,
Yes, because right now I'm writing these 1-day permits, right, in order to have an exception, because I'm not supposed to use my oven and I'm not supposed to chop anything. So what the $45,000 buys, 45 to 55, whatever that last on the lower end, because it wouldn't have it wouldn't have had the stove, gives us is the ability to chop and prep and put things in the oven.
I see.
So we could have chicken marsala, for example, or chicken cordon bleu, but I can't make anything on the stove with it that has any grease in it. So I could warm up like frozen vegetables. That would be okay with the fire chief, but I can't put bacon, for example, on the stove, and I can't brown the chicken there, but I could make things in the oven.
Could you make like pasta? I'm just curious what the rules are.
Anything that's a grease laden vapor. So yes, I could cook pasta, but I can't brown ground beef in order to put in with that pasta.
Mhm.
Right. So it's a much more workable solution in the sense that I'm not filling out all that paperwork. And more importantly, I'm not asking the Board of Health to basically give me exemption after exemption after exemption, which I feel like has a limited shelf life. And it's, I think, fiscally going to be more responsible in the long run because it will allow me to have a moderate meals program that would be home cooked meals by a nutrition coordinator, but is still trying to keep that price lower. We just won't ever have the budget to continue to do what we're doing right now with the COVID food grant. So it's not the position I really wanted to be in because it's kind of a bigger dollar value ask for what the end result will be, but it is the alternative to the whole shebang.
I have a question. You said that you would use the existing oven, but the existing oven isn't working well, right?
Well, that's the most minor of my concerns at this point. If we get to that place where capital planning is not willing to go forward with that, then I would need to work into the operational budget, the money to fix or replace that oven.
Oh, I see. So it will be replaced whether it's through capital planning or through your budget.
I hope so. I mean, they could certainly say no to that, but that is my hope.
I'm getting
But
kind of
this-
confused here.
Yeah.
So there's the whole shebang for 112.
Mhm.
And then for 40 to 45, then you can use the oven, the top of the stove for something without grease, and you can veggie chop. But that's the existing oven. So then if you want the new oven, that's outside the 40 to 45. The 40 to 45 is just the sink and that kind of, the dishwasher and that. So the new oven is not in that 40 to 45.
No, because if I put in a new commercial oven, then I can't use it unless I have the ventilation system.
Oh
Which
my
is
gosh, the
112.
catch 22s. Carolyn, you must be used to this government stuff, huh? You've had some experience with this in the past.
This one is a particularly perplexing issue because we're trying to retrofit an existing space. And so, there's the food permitting issues, there's the building code issues, and then there's budget. So there's 3 different forces there that are kind of all, coming together for these weird combinations of things. I mean, if it was just up to the Board of Health, their main concern is just that I can clean and keep things sanitary. So that's why their focus is on the sinks and the dishwashers. But from the fire code perspective, they're concerned about, obviously fires.
So they're more concerned about ventilation and suppression. So,
And then there's the fact that we might move, we hope to move. So you don't necessarily want to throw all this money that Dennis has expressed concern, and I think Carol tell us that people could say, you just put all this money into that place and it could come back to hurt us in some way.
right. Yep. So we'll
So,
see.
So my question to you is, are you going to advocate, or are you going to advocate for either one of these? And do you want backing from us, and why?
I mean, I would love for you to attend the meeting on the 19th. I don't know that they are going to ask you any questions or that there will be much opportunity to provide input, but certainly your presence there, I think, shows your support at a public meeting. I'm going to advocate for the 112,000 because I think it's what's best for the senior center in this period of time. You know, I will be happy with the other one, but I don't think it's a bad investment to make. I mean, in the scope of the budget of our town, it's not huge. And I think I see David coming in from Abacus. We can let him in. So
I'm just going to ask, can I put in the minutes, is this a Zoom meeting that's going to be on the 19th?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's the capital planning committee meeting.
And so would people have to look it up themselves, or are you going to forward the link, or is Cindy going to forward?
I can forward it to you. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
It's also it also will be on the town's website under the calendar of what's happening on any given day. It will show the meeting, and then it will show the agenda and the Zoom link.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. In terms of other highlights from the director's report, my senior center, we're starting to use that last week. The rollout of that is going well. People are, you know, everyone seems fine with getting their key cards. Let's see. We've all discussed in our last meeting the budget and what I was putting forth for FY23. Like I said, in the first just initial and private meeting with Robert, he was very supportive of all the things that I had suggested. So that is good. And then I think last but not least, I just met with community development to discuss the COVID-19 food grant, and that one feels a whole lot like the kitchen renovation. So there's the original intent of that grant, there's the way we can use it, and it sort of circles around and around and around. But I am pleased that we have 45 people signed up for tomorrow's Lucia's delivery. So that is very good.
Is that an eat-in thing or a grab and go?
It's a delivery. We're delivering it to people's homes.
Oh.
Wow.
So that was the initial intent of the grant, was food delivery to ensure food security. But at the time that I took over as director, there were a fair amount of funds to use in a short period of time. And I lobbied that with 96% of Ayer seniors, which was the statistic I got off of the mass.gov website, with 96% being vaccinated, that the biggest threat of the pandemic was not food insecurity at this point. It was isolation and the cognitive decline and cardiovascular issues that come with isolation. And so I wanted to use that money for congregate dining. So we've done that for a couple of many meals. I think we're up to, I don't know, 16 or so now that we've completed. And then we threw in 2 deliveries for January as well, in order to, in good faith, in order to stick with that initial intent. Again, delivering meals is, and using restaurant takeout is far more expensive than going to the store to get a container of pasta. But I really, that doesn't seem to be the issue at hand right now. We're not ever full when we do loaves and fishes to our van's capacity. more people could be getting loaves and fishes and they're simply not. So we went this route of the congregate dining. So, but I do anticipate that by the end of January, those funds will be spent.
You need it.
I don't know if this is a good time to ask this question, but the last time I volunteered at COA, so many people didn't have a mask on. And that makes me really nervous. So what's the rule then?
So the rule is that is like any place in town, you must have a mask on. And then if you're actively eating, then your mask is off. That's no different than it would be at a restaurant or anything like that. So if you saw people without masks on, definitely let me know, because I've been trying to stay on top of that. But obviously if someone's actively eating, then they don't have a mask on.
Well, the reason I asked is because I asked several people to put their mask back on and they were totally offended and not happy with me. So I just wondered what I should just tell you.
Definitely tell me, for sure. And again, if people are here and they're eating, they're not going to have a mask on, but
No, I know that.
before the meal or after the meal. And as a volunteer, I don't want you to feel like you need to be in an awkward position. So if you see somebody who's not following the rules, definitely let me know.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to tell Carol, this might affirm your experience. My husband works for an airline and the airlines are being decimated by COVID now. You've probably seen all the canceled flights. So they've had a mask mandate and a vaccine mandate, but in the break room, which might have up to 30 big yelling guys in at any point because it's the outside workers, they're supposed to be wearing masks and they weren't. So they sent around a notification. So I just kind of bring this up that maybe there's some notification Katie could send that could remind people. But then there was still people who wouldn't comply. And one of the things they did was they put their mask under their chin and hold a cup of coffee as if I'm actively drinking, but they weren't. It was just to kind of say, you know, to management, I'm not going to follow. And, you know, it's a shame because it's really for everyone's safety. So there's one practical possibility that maybe Katie could send a reminder when she advertises the things. Maybe she already does. I haven't noticed.
Yeah,
But the other thing is, it's kind of human nature that some of these people, they just don't want to comply. So there you go.
Yeah, all of our COVID policies are printed in the newsletter, and for each event that we have come in, you know, whether it's exercise or card playing and whatnot, the staff and I are constantly scanning for folks that don't have their masks on. I do think meals represent a gray area. You know, you sit down at the table and someone's serving you a meal or serving you drinks, like, you know, Sister Paula will start serving drinks. And then I think at that point, people are eating. They are drinking their drink and eating. And so they probably do have their masks removed. I don't think that they're bringing them up and down between sips. But
No,
again,
this was after everyone finished eating. We were talking.
right.
And
Yeah. So
Anyway.
thank you for bringing it to my attention. It's certainly something that we want to stay on top of. For the most part, I found people have been very receptive to the idea. So, you know, I will just keep on doing that. And of course, you know, the alternative is that, you know, if even given that there's really only 2 staff in the building, if one of us gets sick, the whole center gets closed. So people should be incentivized to keep their masks on, if not for their own protection, then for the protection of the staff here. So
we just received a notice from Air Housing on the 4th of January back to required masks in every part of the building, which was changed, and now we're back to that. Wherever we go in the building, you have your mask on because of this new stuff. So
do you need help with deliveries tomorrow?
right now, I think we're okay. I've got Debbie and I, or Sam and I, to deliver, and Debbie's going to stay here and deliver the ones in the building. And then there's 3 or 4 people that are our regulars from Shirley that are coming to pick it up. If Sam should get delayed at the last minute, would you be available if I needed to call you?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Mhm.
Okay.
I
great.
will.
I'm just gonna close my door. Okay, wonderful. Okay. Sorry, closing one more door. So that's all I had for the director's report.
Okay, so I think that since David is here from Abacus, that we should move to that agenda item, and then we'll get back to the annual report. Any objection to that?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay. So, David,
Right,
you
so
want
then the way
to?
this will run is, there's a main
Yeah,
meeting on
hi,
this,
everybody.
basically-
Some familiar faces, new faces. And I don't know how many of you, I know Katie, you're fairly new. We're around when we did the initial study back Ancient History 2020. And I know there were concerns focused in on a site which has contamination. So there are a series of questions that are kind of up in the air, like where should this get built? And is it the site that had been identified, which probably needs to be remediated sooner or later? Or are there better sites? And then we developed a program, we did extensive outreach, developed a space program. And is there any reason to reconsider that? So we're eager to keep moving forward, but sort of making sure we're in the right direction. And that's kind of very much up to you about whether direction has changed in terms of the site and as well as the program. And I guess the idea was I was going to sort of be in the background in here and you were going to discuss. I also have our study open and I can do screen share, but that, you know, this is completely however you want to handle it. And Katie, you suggested stay in the background and I'm happy to do that.
Yes, so I was hoping, David, that you could be a resource as the COA discusses today.
Yep.
And regroups on where we are now, and if there are things that are different, having had that experience of going to town meeting like you said. So
Could I ask something? There's been a kind of a loss of a train of some of this paperwork with a lot of the personnel changes and so forth. Is there any way you can share that report with the board? Were you saying just as a screenshot, or can you email it to us, or, you know?
Oh,
some way
absolutely. I had sort of assumed it had been passed around, but don't assume anything. So, Katie, do you just want me to send it to you? Because I know you're new on this. So that's absolutely the best place to start.
You
And
can
in-
send it to me, but as well, anytime you would need to reach our COA board, we have a group email that's not without some dysfunction with the technology, but it is coaboard@ayer.ma.us. So that's another option as well.
Will you tell me what to do? I have this report. I can send it to whomever. I can send it to you, Katie, if you.
That's fine. Yeah. If you want to send it to me and I'll send it out to the board. Dennis?
Okay, and if you want to take 3 or 4 minutes, I can click you through it if that would be helpful. And again, if not, cannot do that.
When you say this report, it is not the papers that we got that were kind of a compilation of what was available. I mean, I have the conference call materials. I've got kind of a spreadsheet on the mechanicals and, you know, the square footage that was required, a review of potential sites. Is that the report you refer, or is there like a PowerPoint presentation?
There is call it a final report. We took all of the work that we did and distilled it down from beginning to end, distilled it down to 31 pages.
Oh, yeah, we don't have that. I mean, I don't have.
That would
Okay.
be great to have,
Yes,
great to have.
so and Does Robert have that report, or is that report at the capital planning committee, or no one?
I sent it to the people on the committee and the former head of the COA with the, call it assumption, call it hope, that it had been widely distributed.
I see, okay, all right.
So I'm absolutely, I think there'd be no better starting point
Oh, absolutely,
than the work we've done to date, because there's no reason to repeat it if it's still applicable. And if you look at it and say, whoa, we ought to rethink this, then that's fine. But at least you know, we had a lot of outreach, a lot of process. And 18 months ago, or whenever it was, this summed it all up.
Sure, no, that sounds like a very valuable document for us to have.
To make the most of this time, should I go through it, or again, Katie, if you want me to not do that, that's fine. I don't want to be.
I defer to what the rest of the board would like to do. Does anyone feel like they're not aware of what, I think you've done a fair amount of talking about all the different various sites that have been considered. I'm not sure we need to talk about that more. I think if anything, at least from my perspective, and again, someone else can pipe up, I'd like to look at the floor plans and the actual programming space that's available and make sure that that is still accurate, more so than the sites, because I think that's something that is kind of ever changing and we've all discussed it. What does the rest of the board think?
You want me to bring that up on the screen? And what I could do,
David, yeah.
okay, is do a short introduction and then leave it up there, and then I can step into the background. Okay, let me see, screen share.
Katie, I think you're right. I think the location, that's kind of tabled in a lot of capacities from the last meeting, from the town meeting. So let's move on to the floor plan. Sounds great.
Okay.
David, one thing that's gonna, and I don't know to what extent it's relevant, but to what extent is your planning site specific, or is it site agnostic? That is, perhaps regardless of the site, these are all everything that you've done would fit pretty much on any of the, or is it for site A, you'd need to do this, and for site B, you'd need that, and you know what I'm saying?
The answer is yes. It is on the one hand site specific, because if the site is stretched this way parallel to a street, you might have a different layout than if it's oriented perpendicular to the street. And on the other hand, we could take a plan and push it and pull it and adapt it to most any site. So we don't have to start over again on a new site. We just have to adapt it.
Okay.
So why don't I do this? Can you see the program?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we divided it up into kind of public spaces, entry, vestibule, reception, toilets, circulation, and gross area. There's call it the back of house. There's the offices, there are open office areas, there are private offices, there are areas, copy, mail areas, storage, conference, the typical areas associated with offices, and then wellness. And that's often has very specific requirements. You want it to be accessible. You want it to be somewhat private. You don't necessarily want to be seen going into the wellness areas. Then there are the program spaces where I hate to call these boxes that people go into, but the idea is you could go in, you can close the doors, you're not in the middle of everything. And so a kitchen. So the lounge is interesting. I'll get back to that. A great room where you could have 100, 150 people, or you could have very active, recreation, wellness uses, jazzercise, a large multipurpose room, a small multipurpose room, a game room, maybe with card tables, maybe with the ping pong table, and so what the idea is, pretty much these are all multi-use spaces. They can do one thing in the morning, one thing in the afternoon, one thing in the evening. They could be open to the whole community, or they could focus on COA uses to not make them too specific, with enough storage space so that you could pull the chairs out, you could put it back in the closet. That this is very adaptable, because there's no point building twice as much space than you really need, or space that's used twice as much space used once a day, when you can half as much space used 2 or 3 times a day. So that's the background. So here are the square footages that we came up with, working with the community. And these are fairly typical for a COA. There are all kinds of variations. You tend to have bigger, more spaces if it's a multi-generational community center, and that might be a question. It might be a budget question. Do you want to be able to accommodate teens in the afternoon and have more spaces, or is this really for the COA? So 11,000 square feet is not untypical for a town the size of yours. Enough space where you don't have to sign up a month in advance to get the space, but not so much that most days the spaces are empty. So I'm going to fast forward and okay, here's one site, here's another site, 1 site, 2 sites, 3 sites, and you can see the same pieces being pushed around in order to work on the different sites. So then we zeroed in on the site on Main Street. So here we have the great room, and you can see my cursor moving around. Here's the great room that could be divided in half, right? Can everybody see my cursor moving?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. There's storage space for tables and chairs. There are, well, let me walk in the 2 front doors. There's a door off of Main Street. This is right on Main Street. The idea is Main Street is increasingly a walkable street. So you want to have a front door right on Main Street where people will be coming from. The reality is probably a lot of people are driving. So they're coming from back here. So there's another front door if you park your car or drop off. And it may be 95% of the people come by bus and car at the beginning, and 10 years from now, more people are walking. That's the hope of the town. So you walk in the front door and you have a fairly big open space. Call it a lounge, call it a lobby. In the middle of that is a bookcase and a fireplace. So on the one hand, this is big and open, and on the other hand, there are cozy corners in it. And sometimes people will say, why do we need this big open lobby? What we hear and what we see is that's the most important space, because yes, you may come for a program, you may come for exercise, but then you meet your friend here and you spend 2.5 hours just chitting and chatting and your other friends come by. So making this a comfortable place to gather off of the circulation space seems really important. Then you can go into the great room from this end, the great room from this end. The bathrooms are kind of tucked in the back corner, but accessible. There's the medium multi-purpose room. There's a small multi-purpose room, and some of these could be flipped around. There are the offices along the street and a game room. And so the small and multi-purpose room and the game room and the offices look out on the street. The great room with doors opens it up to and back. So one of the reasons we liked the Main Street site was there's a frontage on Main Street, there's parking, and then there's all this green space in back. So you're part of the town in the front and you're part of nature in back. And this is not the only site where you could accomplish that. So these rooms connect to the, call it the urban side. These can connect to the nature side. We have fairly big doors that open up. There are dotted lines with the idea that these are like garage doors. So you could close up And, you have acoustic separation, you can have visual separation. And on the other hand, you can open this all up and it's an extension of the living room. Because there's sometimes people sitting here reading a book, sort of looking in there saying, that looks like fun. I've never been that good at dance. Or I don't know, but the idea is to get people involved. So that's where we're at with this, and the thoughts that went into it. And the question now is this the right track, the wrong track? And depends on the site, but depends on what you want to do with this.
Oh,
I kind of wanted to back up a little further because most of the board members are new. And point out, I have this document, I know you can't read it, but I still have it, it's very pale. And it was written by Sister Paula. Sister Paula, do you remember when we hashed out for hours what we should have? The big three were more space, privacy, and parking. And the kitchen's kind of in with the space also. But we actually hashed out as board members, and then in a big meeting at the Ayer High School, a lot of thought went into this final report. And I'm not saying we can't edit or give our opinion, but you don't actually have to go back to square one. And Sister Paula's document, she wowed all of us. It was just, she spent a lot of time and a lot of thought on it. So I just wanted to kind of review that with you.
When did that come out?
Oh, our report?
From Sister Paula, yeah.
Well, I don't think she has a date, but actually this brings up something that I wanted to mention to the board. I did find all the old minutes from 2019, 2020, and I am going to bring them down to the town to post because they've already been approved. Somehow the process never went through. And a lot of this stuff was discussed in board meetings. So on a snowy day, you might want to go back after we can get them posted and look, because a lot of thought already went into this. And editing is always easier than just thinking nobody thought about parking or nobody thought about bathrooms,
So Janine, Jean, I think you're bringing up a great point. And when I look at this floor plan, what I see are all of those things here. I see more space, obviously, for sure, more space. I see more privacy. I see, you can't see my finger, but my finger is pointing to this curved reception area with two receptionists, what look like stools along that curved area for check-in and for greeting. And I see 3 spots for staff members who are looking to do work, but still have their eyes on what's going on in the center. Because it looks to me like there would be great visibility from those front 5 positions through to all of the rooms. And then what I see in the back is a conference room and 2 private offices, so that if I'm trying to take a Zoom call or there's a COA board that needs to discuss something, there's privacy there, as well as the wellness office that is right there in the front, right near the door. So someone can come in and have a private meeting without anyone actually even knowing that they came to the senior center. They've not even made it further than the vestibule. So I think this really captures the essence of that report.
And let me just say, this report is news to me. And this is why I was trying to figure out, was it done before we did our work, but nobody gave us a copy? Because we did go through many of those same exercises, and it's really unfortunate that we didn't know about it, because we absolutely would have taken it into account. But Katie, as you noted, it may pick up many of the same things.
I think they were discussed. A lot of the original concerns were discussed. That's my impression. But I just wanted the board to know that this isn't exactly square one. It's more like square 10. And to look at this floor plan, this is actually the first time I've seen it. I think when there was something in early 2020, I was away for the month and I missed this. And I really would love to have a copy of the whole thing.
So I don't, from David's, from this drawing or diagram, I guess, and David's understanding of what folks were look, it doesn't feel to me like we're starting from square one. I mean, I think that a lot of time and thought and energy by all parties has already been put into what would be kind of a constructive, good solution, taking into account, you know, the variables and the compromises that need to be made. So I just don't feel, you know, and I'm new to the process, but having reviewed what Janine had sent earlier and what Karen Swanfelt, the previous, had written up, and what, you know, I don't feel like I'm starting from square one. I feel like I've gotten a lot of background information. And obviously this report from David's folks would, you know, kind of put the, you know, just kind of put an exclamation point on that. One thing I would ask is about the kitchen. Outside of this particular conversation, we're having a lot of kitchen conversations as well. So how big is the kitchen, and what would, you know, in terms of commercial quality and all the rest of it, could you describe in a little bit more detail what the kitchen?
Yeah, and I was in the process, I just emailed this to Katie and I made screen share disappear. So hold on just a second.
There we go.
Okay. So kitchen. Here we go. The idea, so the kitchen is strategically located so that it's accessible to the outside in the drop-off area. So you could bring in a Meals on Wheels truck right up here and deliver it to the back door. You can bring the trash out. So the kitchen is very accessible from the outside. And on the other hand, it kind of disappears behind the greenery because there's trash and all that kind of stuff. It then opens into the great room, which is often close the door and you have lunch in half the great room. That's a typical thing to do. And then it also serves the whole, this is called a cafe. You go to the window here so you can get your coffee, or coffee can be wheeled out to the coffee stand here. So just like in a house, we try and put the kitchen in the middle of everything, or accessible to everything without being in the middle of everything. I guess that's the way to phrase it. And it's set up more or less like a commercial kitchen, you know, big enough that you could, if not cook for a big event in the great room, certainly cater it. It's big enough to have cooking classes. They tend to be really popular. And then a window that opens up into the great room. So that's how the kitchen is structured.
Okay.
And I think it's 250 square feet, something like that. Maybe a little bit larger than that.
Okay. And about, you may not, like, what would be maximum capacity and average capacity on an average day in the facility size? Like, it's kind of geared to X number of people on your average Wednesday, and the most people you'd ever want to put in it is what? Or
Good, how are you?
Are you asking me or?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, what we did, and there wasn't a vast amount of discussion with this, about this. The kitchen was big enough so you had, if you had a catered event in the great room, it would work. On an average day, you probably wouldn't need, you know, Meals on Wheels, you don't need this kitchen. So it's really sized for the maximum of event, not what you would need on a daily basis.
Okay.
But that opens up opportunities for, you know, for renting it out, for example.
And what was the, what's the capacity of the great room?
Let me just see if that's in the program. 2,300 square feet. So you could, if you packed people in, you could get over 200 people. If you had more elbow room, yeah, so maximum 200 people. Like if you had a lecture, you could even get, you could do 10 feet per square, 10 people per square foot. So if you had a performance and you lined the chairs up, you could get over 200 people. For sitting around tables, more like 150.
So for purposes of perspective, I can't speak to Groton because I actually haven't been to their new center, but for Townsend, if anyone did any visits of other towns or would like to plan a site visit to Townsend, I only know that because that's where I came from. That's a very comparable size. In Townsend, you can seat 220 or so for a lecture. And around 100, anything over than 100 starts to get real tight for a meal. And I would tell you that that's a lovely size room and that would meet or exceed our needs. But if anyone is like me and has a little bit of trouble conceptualizing what that space looks like, we could certainly plan a trip over there.
Well,
One of the
I
things-
went to several sites and the Groton site did something very interesting. I'm not saying you have to change the floor plan, but they made kind of an L, and this part down here was the lobby, and they have a pool table and a couple of little television cubicles. And then they have this great room, which is also can be a pickleball, and they have a kitchen in the back. But I went to see Liz Walker and she was a huge draw. They took down this temporary wall and the L focused on her, and you could fill both rooms. It was a very interesting concept. I'm not sure how often they actually have to do that, but it is great to have some extra space, always a little extra space.
Yeah, and pickleball. I mean, everybody's doing pickleball these days, and I'm not sure how much the minimum space you needed, but you don't want to be just a little too small to do the things you really want to be able to do. One of the challenges we had was the existing COA. We kept on being told, no, when we have a new one, we're going to have 2 or 3 or 4 times as many people doing everything. So don't pay him too much attention to what we're doing now. So we were really looking forward. I mean, along with all the people, but dozens and dozens and dozens of people we talked to.
So just for reference, a pickleball court is 30 by 60 feet. And then you need about 8 feet around it. So, I mean, a 2,300 square foot room is going to be fine for that.
30 by, what, say that again, how big? Yeah, so
A
here you
pickleball-
can see the scale down here. So 30 by 60.
30 by 60, and then you'd want, you know, a little bit of an out of bounds area so people aren't running into the wall.
Yeah.
Well, and the
So nice
ceiling
little
has to be,
tight.
the ceiling has to be generous too, or else you're going to be hitting the ceiling. So it's just
Right.
another aspect.
Yeah, I
If you
mean,
really
that-
wanted to put in a pickleball court.
I would say, I mean, I don't know that you want to alter the design of a building around one activity, but at the same time, you know, if you could add 5 or 6 extra feet to something and make it work versus not, this is the time to discuss it.
And another thing to say is, maybe you don't need that much out of bounds space. You know, maybe we can compress it a little, because 30 by 60, I think it's about 30 by 60 without any out of bounds space.
Mhm.
Or you do a non-regulation pickleball, you do the same thing. But that's very much up to you, what you want to be able to accommodate.
Right.
In terms of needs, I mean, you know, I'm just thinking about what that would entail in terms of flooring and injury prevention, and whether it's going to be hardwood, or, you know, what you have to do to the rest of the building to make it compatible for athletic events on the inside.
Mhm.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I've never played pickleball, so but I understand it.
I just brought it up that they made it big enough that they actually put the lines in. I'm not sure if they've ever really used it. My experience with pickleball is they're kind of rabid. You know, one court is not going to be enough. They have some setups in Westford of like 4 or 6 courts, and people are waiting to come in. So it was just, I threw that out that they actually did create it. I have no idea if it's actually been used or if it's something that's worked out or if it's something we should consider, but it kind of gives the dimension of the room.
And
Right.
at a certain point, you're talking about a 20,000 square foot recreation center. And then you want a basketball court and it's a 30,000 square foot recreation center. So that's very much up to you, like how far is too far and how far is not enough. And that becomes a money issue among other things, or primarily a money issue.
Yeah, I would say.
Well, I was really interested in what Katie had to say about, in particular, how the office space was organized, and just in general, I don't know. I mean, I've only been to a couple senior centers, and I just want to know, especially Katie, since you have the most experience, if there is something else that you think is really, really great or needs changing in this floor plan?
Sure. So, I was looking at, there's, different floor plans for each site. And obviously this one is the biggest and most expansive of the plans because it was the most wide open site. So there are two things I was really going to ask for, and one of them has already been spoken to. So I do want a coffee bar or kitchenette in that main cafe area that keeps seniors out of the kitchen for morning coffee hours, because that is a health and hygiene issue, not to mention a hassle for the folks that are in the kitchen trying to get a large lunch ready. So, but it sounds like this plan at least has that already. I do think pickleball is a great idea. It is very popular, and of course, having more than one court is better than no courts. Would be, I mean, having more than one would be great, but having one, I think, would still be good. Doesn't mean we couldn't alternately.
Basement makes phase one.
Oh, there's some background noise. Is there somebody not muted or?
Yeah, my part.
Oh, sorry.
Guess it was David.
Oh, okay. And then let's see. And then I guess the only other thing that I was going to suggest is I'd like to see a covered entryway with a space that the Mart van can pull up, because we are going to be off site from town hall no matter what. And it's always a stretch for facilities to be maintaining off-site locations. And it doesn't mean they're not fabulous. They are fabulous, and they are great. But it is just one more location. And so being able to have seniors, especially those that are most frail who are riding our van, get off the van in, especially in the winter months, but into a covered space. And I don't know, I mean, that's a hardscape issue outside, I think, more than anything, not a big structural difference, but I would like to see that.
I-
And I'm sorry, you're suggesting an overhead canopy.
Yes, so I don't know, like, for example, in this one, I love that there's all of this sidewalk out in front. There's 30 feet of sidewalk before you get to the front door, but I would really love to see almost like an arced pull-in that comes closer to those front doors, that allows the van to get closer and then allows I don't know, in Florida, you call that a porta cochere or whatever,
Yeah.
an extension to come out that the van can pull through.
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you see that happening at the entrance on West Main Street, and the issue around potential traffic there, or at the entrance more to the rear next to the kitchen? Or do you have a view of that?
I think it would be easier to incorporate into the design to put it into our existing parking lot over here on the parking side, but I would leave that up to the design experts.
Yeah, I think that whole arc, we move it, let's say 20 feet to the right, and have the canopy extend 15 to the left, and we've done that. I mean, I think you're absolutely right.
Great, great.
Well,
Um,
I have something minor that's just a personal observation. It doesn't come from any past conversations or anything. The restrooms being in the back, I don't love that idea. Sometimes people come in and they want to use the restroom right away. I'd almost switch, say, the game room with the restrooms. Another senior center in Westford, they have the billiard room up in a kind of a corner upstairs, and I think the guys love it. It's kind of like their little club back there. So I think just throwing it out is something to think about, that the restroom right by the entrance and the game room in the back. I don't know what that does to your plumbing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
think-
think you walking in and have to go through the whole place to get to a bathroom. And this would be more convenient.
And that's a fairly straightforward thing to do, to somehow insert it. So it isn't in your face, but it's right there when you need it, where you need it.
Right, right. And, you know, David, I'm looking at the, are those the gray areas, 2 closets to the right of the wellness room?
He's muted.
I'm muted.
Oh, sorry.
There are 2 bathrooms. We're asked to do 2 bathrooms, one to the wellness room and one next to it that was for staff. And then opposite that, I don't quite remember what that was. It was a designated room, 2 bathrooms, and I think it was related to wellness. I think that there would be a scale in there. You could get COVID shots in there. I think that that's what that 3rd gray box is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I mean, I would also be open to the idea of if you're gonna have a staff-only restroom, which I think is nice to have, that you probably don't need a wellness one and a staff one. Perhaps that wellness restroom could also open into the front hallway and be a handicap restroom, which would solve some of that sense of, if there's a real sense of urgency. I'm not opposed to the idea of flip-flopping them with the restrooms with the game room. But if that's not possible, a compromise would be to incorporate that one up in the front.
Yeah, that might make a lot of sense. And to the extent it's right near the drop off and pickup van, that's often when people need the bathroom the most, when they get off the van or they're getting on the van. So that would be great. I think we had questions. Somebody had wanted 2 bathrooms. Makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
I think, you know, the staff bathroom kind of needs to be its own bathroom, and that's kind of the whole point. But I do think if there were, I didn't realize there was a wellness restroom as well. If that restroom could probably do double duty.
Yeah, okay.
So do any of the other board members have feedback on this or any things that they would like to see incorporated?
Could we do like outdoor pickleball? Or, you know, some outdoor something? I know that's beyond the scope of what you're doing here, but just a thought.
I think that's going to be really site specific, Carolyn, as far as how much room there is. It looks like on this particular plan, there's room for outdoor
Yeah.
seating for sure.
And a walking path.
And there was a
Well, that's
walking path,
outside,
yeah.
Where is the dining area? I'm not seeing it so printed so
So,
small.
yeah, so here's the kitchen
Yeah.
and this great room would be, we'd be dining in probably the left-hand side of this. And then there's one of those, like in a hotel ballroom, there's a wall that goes through there. So this would seat probably 50 people for lunch on any regular basis.
Yeah, never had that. The most we've ever had from the past, before all of this, the most we had was 25 people
Right.
for lunch, and that was crowded in the other room. They were elbow to elbow
Right.
because of the space. So when you're talking about 50 people, whoa.
I think that with the right space and good programming and the growing population, I think we will have 50 to 60 for lunch on probably a bi-weekly basis, if I had to make a guess. Not
Yeah.
every meal, but certainly on a very regular basis. David, the only other thing I'm noticing as we sit here, and of course, all of this discussion is based on this kind of ideal floor plan that we're looking at right now, is the kind of storage that you've got in the great room isn't really conducive, I don't think, to what would be going in that storage. So with a great multi-purpose room like that, you're going to have collapsible tables and stackable chairs. And I think we need something that takes into account, 30, 40, 50, 30 tables at least going in and out of there. And that kind of storage, I just don't know if that's conducive to that.
Well, there are tables and chairs that are cart mounted, and we did not do an exhaustive study. I mean, the next step on this would say, how many tables, how many chairs? Here's a product line, and here are the dimensions, and we'd show exactly the dimension, that's how many you get. We did dig into that level of detail, but the idea is you would, from each pair of closet doors, you could pull out 20 tables on those carts and 20 chairs. So your point is a good one. Need to be focus in on what the needs are and how to accommodate them. But I don't know. I don't think it's impossible here, but yeah, we should verify that. And then on top of tables and chairs, or if you're going to do a lot of exercise equipment, to how much of that do you want to be able to store? So my guess is when we get real about this, we'd have more storage space. I think that's the point you're making.
And I think you mentioned this, David, that from the great room, there are large doors which open to the outside.
Yeah.
And so the people would be able to leave. That is, if we had some outdoor activities or whatever in the back there, people could exit the room by those doors.
The idea is that the outdoors is really an extension of the indoors. So you're doing an exercise class, it's a nice day, you can go out on the terrace, or you get your food and you can go and eat outside. And we've just shown a couple of, I think here again, there are dotted lines. The idea is there's swinging doors, but you could have like garage doors or great big operable doors that open things up as much as you wanted. So it's off the great room, but you can also go in and out through here.
I think Dennis is on to something though here, because if you exit, say if there's a big event and you just want to exit there and go over to the parking lot to the left, instead of that tree there, you should probably have a sidewalk that connects directly with the parking lot. That would be very nice.
Yeah.
Extending on Dennis's thoughts there.
Yeah, a good point. So let me throw out so I sent this to Katie. So the idea is people can keep going with this either in like 2 minutes when I'm done saying this and the next 2 weeks as you review this. But I'm taking a lot of notes in this. My sense is the next step for us is to look at this site issue and not spend time modifying this plan unless it's a fairly, at least possible, if not likely, that we're using this site. Then we'll jump on this and implement these and other requests. If the site is still a big question, I'll have my notes. And then when we focus in on other sites, we can implement these ideas into revised plans that fit on the new sites.
So, and just kind of touching on that a little bit. So generally speaking, right around 11,000 square feet is, kind of like a workable solution, generally speaking. To put that on 2 floors would be highly problematic, or you probably would recommend against it, or So, or could you say that, the site needs to be all 11,000 feet on one floor? Or do you have a view of that?
Yeah, a number of things. First of all, you're paying for 2 stairs. You need 2 means of egress, and you're paying for an elevator. So it's a bunch of money, and then those take up space. So you need to, first, you pay for the stair for the elevator, and you pay for the space. This is fairly small. I mean, it's probably disadvantageous. And, some people like 2 stories because the guys can play poker and just get away from their wives, or vice versa. Or, you're like the kid in the treehouse, you can get away from it. And then other people say, but, it's out of the way. And how do you even know it's up there? So there are pros and cons. My recommendation for cost and other reasons is to when we had everybody in the office, somebody would answer the phone. My partner's in the bathroom, everybody else has worked from home. So thank you
No
for your
worries.
patience. And
Yeah.
I'm afraid my cell phone is going to ring. Okay. If the site's too small to put it on one floor, it's probably too small a site. That would be my recommendations.
Yeah, all right, no, that's good information for me to have, thank you.
So since he's opened the site question, my thought is that we need to get some sort of an estimate on what it would take to clean up this site. And is your company capable of doing that? Before we go to town meeting again, we need to know exactly what's involved in, this is a preferred site as far as I'm concerned. In many ways, you brought it before town meeting, so it's clearly the building committee's preferred site. So the questions remain, primarily about the cleanup. And my thought is that it belongs, it's property in the town of Ayer, and we as a town are the ones that are most capable of cleaning it up. Well, maybe not most, but we are capable of cleaning it up. And so I think it's our responsibility to do that. And, depending on, what cleanup requires, I would be willing to advocate for that, and work with people in town who might object to it to work through it.
So, Carolyn, I guess I'm a little bit at a loss as far as how much to say or not say, given that the building committee is an executive session committee, and this one is public record. But I know that the building committee met in December, and I think I briefly touched on it during our sort of special budget meeting. But they are looking at all sites. This is certainly a top contender, but it is not a foregone conclusion. And one of the tasks of the building committee between now and when they meet, I believe it's February 4th, but don't quote me on that because I don't have it right in front of me, is to take a look at getting what it would involve to get the appropriate environmental consultation, to really get a status report on this site, and then be able to make decisions about whether to go forward or not go forward based on some real definitive data.
Great.
I had
Yeah.
passed on.
Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
We definitely need to get all of our ducks in a row before town meeting, because everybody thinks of it as a toxic site. And that's the first thing that pops into your mind. And so if we have all this information, it's going to be clean, it's going to be healthy, we really need to have that done.
I had passed on, we worked on a project in Medford where there's contamination from a dry cleaner right next door. And the city of Medford hired an environmental consultant and they did a cleanup and it was pretty clean. I mean, there were some limitations, but not many. And I had passed on the name of that company because they seemed to know what they were doing. I mean, we didn't have as architects that much of involvement. I had passed that on. And I'm not sure if anyone, and maybe I'll pass it on again. There are many companies that do this, but this is what they do for a living. And dry cleaning contamination is fairly frequent. And there are ways of figuring out how much of a problem it is and solving it. So it's a solvable problem. All it takes is money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it can be expensive. All it takes. Yes.
Right.
So I will pass that on. And, it isn't something we as architects act on. It would be, the town would do it, but perfectly capable of following up.
Okay. When you say pass that on, could you send that information to Katie as well as Robert or whomever? Okay.
Well, it would be Robert who would have the budgetary authority to engage an environmental consultant. So David, you sent it to him, right?
Yeah.
And to Carly and to head of DPW. I sent it to a number of people, but why don't I send it again? Because these are the kinds of things you file away and then forget to file them away. So let me send it again. And Katie, why don't I send it to you?
Okay.
You have the most, certainly want to see something happen. So I'll send
I
that
would
out.
just like to say that there's a lot of forces involved here. There's people who want this site. There's cleaning up a toxic site and kind of piggybacking it onto our project. And I just want to say, I think our goal should really be to come up with the best site for our clients, not necessarily, urban renewal for the town of Ayer. I think that this has to be cleaned up sometime, but it doesn't necessarily have to be piggybacked onto our project. And I know Carol had mentioned, and I think she's right, that since COVID, there's been a lot of changes in buildings and building needs for companies. And I think that it behooves us to look, cast a wider net. The town of Harvard found by putting out a request for procurement, which I learned the term from their COA, sent it out to the whole town. Do you have a building or a site that you would like to sell to the town of Harvard? And they found a building nobody even knew about. And I drove by it. It looks very nice. It's going to be renovated at a reasonable price. I don't know what all their debates were about the location or anything like that, but it looks really nice. And Carol mentioned this a while ago, that since COVID, there very well could be vacant buildings or even occupied now, but they don't really need it going forward since so many people are now remote. And I just feel, I want to say, we have to think what's best for our clients and the Council on Aging and the Senior Center going forward. And a commercial message.
We looked at, I think, 8 different sites. We looked at 6 sites before this one, and none of them worked out for a variety of different reasons. So on the one hand, what you're saying is right. And on the other hand, we go through this in many, many, many towns. One of the biggest frustrations is find a place to locate municipal facilities. If there's nothing on it, it's because there's wetlands there, or it's too expensive, or it's too steep, or there's so many reasons. So on the one hand, completely agree. And on the other hand, I know 18 months ago, we looked at a long series of sites and there was frustration on everyone's part about the challenges. And having said that, I'm going to step back because
well, again, following Katie's thoughts, that we can't say too much what happened in an executive session, but there was some discussion on other sites, and I think that'll come out later. So
Okay,
I don't think we're wedded to this site, and I think we should continue to think of what's best for our clients.
I don't think
Okay.
anybody's not doing that. I think that the building committee will take all of that into account before recommending a particular site. I think
I
David.
agree. I absolutely agree. I just wanted to give my commercial message.
Sure. And I think
I'd like us to move on. Unfortunately, I have a hard stop at 3:45. So,
That
You know,
keeps us on track, Carol. You keep doing that.
yeah.
Carolyn, I should say.
Okay, so, I mean, that's, the building committee is going to take the lead here. But I really thank you, David, for this presentation and for bringing us up to date, on the reports that you have already completed.
Really good input, really appreciated. I will send out that environmental consulting firm and then wait to hear. And people should feel free to reach out with questions or with ideas in whatever the appropriate way is. Okay, I will
Okay.
sign off then, and
Okay.
thank
I
you
just
again.
wanted to ask him before he left, do you want to share your email with us? Or is there a route of information to get to you? Like, do we tell Katie? Does Katie tell you?
Right. So I'm just going to answer for David and say any communication needs to go through the building committee or through me, just to not clog up poor David's inbox. But I did forward you guys all that report, so you'll have that information.
Great,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay,
Thank you,
so back to the annual report. So Cindy said there is an annual report due on February 28th. I'm thinking that since we've had so many changes this year, and I'm assuming that it's from January to January, that we need somebody to write the section of the report before June, when I became, when I joined the board, and then I can do it from June through September, and then Katie can do the last part of it. How does that sound?
So
Okay.
is that the way that that's typically handled? So when I saw that, I presume that's what goes in the report that gets handed out at town meeting, right? The town thing.
Right.
So has the COA been writing that in years past, or has that been the director's responsibility?
The director always did. We never did it. Michelle, do you remember doing that?
Oh, Michelle, Janine, you mean me?
Yeah, wake up. Do you
Well, I'm
remember
not Michelle, but anyway, that's okay, Sister Paula.
writing anything?
I believe it was Karen who did it, but I
Yeah.
did not do anything.
I mean, I think that's typical. I'm just
Little-
saying that, this past year,
Yeah.
we don't have a full year of Katie, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that we would fill in.
I definitely would love anything that you guys have in terms of content for what was done earlier in the year, would be much, much appreciated.
Okay.
What kind
Okay,
of things
so-
are you looking for? Accomplishments?
Yeah, I mean, it's a one-page thing, so it's not in any detail at all. But if you look at past annual reports, you'll see, and there's a template that Cindy has that we fill in the different parts of the template.
Oh, so it's only a one page?
Here we go, Town
I
of
think it
Ayer
is.
annual report.
Yeah, if you look, I think it's one page.
Oh, gosh, so that's a whole relief to me. In Townsend, they were 8-10 pages long, including photos and all of that stuff for the department. So if
I think that's what she said. I'll look back at the instructions, and meanwhile, Janine's looking at last year's.
I'm here.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
last year's. Well,
So
it
it's-
says 2020,
it's
it's only a half a page. It's a half a page from the
Yeah, we're
council.
just asking each board and committee for one page, with
And
some
it was
major
by the
things
director.
from the past year and then some goals.
Okay, great. So we will pull that together for the next meeting. Each of us can do, Sister Paula can do something from early in the year, and I will do something over the summertime, and then Katie can do the end. Let's see, the next thing is programmatic needs in the future full service center. I don't know.
I think we discussed that substantially with David and the design and the layout.
Yeah,
It seems
yeah.
like.
yeah. Okay, and so branding, Janine came up with a pretty extensive document
Thank you.
about branding. So Janine, do you want to say something about it?
All right, I just on my minutes thing, 6 programmatic needs in the future. What is that? We're just referring back to what we talked about with Dave?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes,
So 7 on to design and layouts in the center. They did that.
yeah,
And now we're on to 8 branding. This is just for the minutes.
yeah.
Okay, so my thoughts on that were when talking to people around the town and also in the center, because it's underneath the Ayer Housing Authority, a lot of people thought that they were related. Some people confused it with the Neshoba Park. It's just kind of good to decide what we want to call ourselves going forward and have a clean look, perhaps update those signs, perhaps create a sign like Carol's was adorable for when we had the Heart of Ayer celebration, but we might want to make something a little bit easier to read and could even be carried in a parade. If you get around to creating business cards for everyone who's associated with the center, you might want them to all look the same. Katie has brought up the fact that every town is required to have a council on aging, but not a senior center. So even that is kind of interrelated, but not exactly the same. There was Karen who thought that she liked the name Center for Active Living better than Senior Center. We've talked about that as a group. It sounded like most people in this council would like to see Senior Center used. I have no strong feeling either way. I know what Karen was thinking of, that the idea is that seniors need to think of staying active instead of being stagnant. And there was a little push to call it that, of which Mr. Pombrian still called it that at the building committee meeting. So it's kind of like we got to get all on the same page, what we're going to call ourselves, what our signs and perhaps name tags and everything are going to look like.
Okay, I guess maybe the first thing we should do is say, what do we want to call ourselves?
Well, I think that I kind of like Senior Center just because there's kind of like a de facto 60-year-old limit there, and people are familiar with it. I think that hopefully over the next 2 to 5 years, there are going to be substantial changes programmatically. The geography is going to change. In too many changes too fast will kind of muddy the waters, I think. Or at least it would in my mind. So I like Senior Center as, now the relationship between the Senior Center and the Council on Aging, unclear as to what the distinction is there or what the difference is administratively or otherwise.
So I think the distinction is that a council on aging, so the state mandates a council on aging, which could be like the veterans officer, right? One person who sits at a desk in town hall. Lots of towns have had that for a number of years. Then you could have a staff of people and you could have a separate building or not a separate building, right? So you guys are the council on aging board.
Right.
I'm not on the council on aging board. I sit in on your meetings, right? So it's only confusing in the sense that they are different entities. And for example, the state of Massachusetts, every town uses the same website server with the same sort of template, or I guess not server is not the right word, but the same template, the same structure for their website. And the tabs at the top have to do with committees and departments. And so right now we have sort of two siloed places to get information about seniors in town. And I'd really like to see those redirect into one space that is both the Council on Aging's information and the Senior Center's information. I don't know that if we are considering them one and the same, as long as we're siloing all the information together, I don't think it's that confusing. But right now they're separate.
I like,
They're not, they're just separate for the purposes of the vocabulary. There's no underlying legal distinction. It's just the vocabulary that's being used is different.
Well, I mean, they're different in the sense that, like, I'm a town employee. You guys are not a town employees. You guys are volunteers. So.
No, I mean the distinction between Council on Aging and Senior Center.
You
That
mean
is,
for the operations that are happening at a senior center?
well, the Council on Aging evidently controls and provides the funding for the Senior Center.
Well, remember that old thing about see all the people with the church? Here's the church, here's the steeple.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like the Council on Aging is the people and the Senior Center is the structure. Is that one way to put it, Katie?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
So nobody works, quote unquote, for the Senior Center. People work for the Council on Aging, the Council on Aging.
No, in that respect, I work for the town. I don't work for you guys.
No, I understand that. Yeah. I haven't signed a paycheck in a long time.
No, I know, but that's the distinction I'm trying to make is
Yeah.
that I work for the town of Ayer, and I'm the director of the senior center,
yeah.
versus you guys are the Council on Aging. You are the advisory board to the
Well,
senior
it's the
center.
Yeah.
So you're the
Oh, wait,
director.
so you're the director of the
not
Senior
director.
Center?
Okay.
I actually thought you were the director of the Council on Aging.
No.
I think we should promote her.
There we go.
I think we should get a raise, right, Sister Paula?
You should be
You've been
both.
asking for us to get a raise for a long time,
Um,
as from 0 to something.
add something.
Now I understand. Okay.
Just
Now
talk
I-
over them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to write it in the notes and I'm like, what?
Okay, what I was gonna say is, when we first talked about changing to Center for Active Living, it sounded, whoa, nice and different. But when I put them together, I think Senior Center would be our title, but our motto would be Center for Active Living.
I like that.
And, so it's like a combination, but all the towns have a senior center. And so people would know what it was. I don't know, that's my idea. I don't know.
I think that fits perfectly with the idea of recognizability. And
Yeah.
so the signs on Main Street right now do not say Senior Center. That's one point. One thing to
And I like
possibly
having
change.
Senior Center.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds to me like we have reached consensus that we should be called Ayer Senior Center.
Mhm.
Now, is anybody interested in creating a visual, a logo or, something to represent us?
I was working on that,
Yeah, Michelle.
that document. And that could be quite a discussion. I think that maybe people should think about it, maybe draw something up, look at my templates, and we should revisit that. That could be an hour talking
Yeah.
about that.
And I think it's always easier to look at something and to provide input and edits, sort of like we did with the floor plan, than to talk about it as, clear blue sky. One thing I would like to see explored is if there's, I don't know what the zoning requirements are, but rather than the traffic sign essentially that's out there right now at the corner by the courthouse, I would love to see a sign, whether it's wood, all wood or a wooden granite combination that's got the two posts with a sign between it, you know, like an actual business sign that has, you know, the Ayer Senior Center, Center for Active Living with an arrow that way. And then also one at the end of School Street that has you turn left so that you know that you're going the right way once you get down there. And
Why don't
maybe-
we put this on the agenda to really talk about how these things are going to look and then start to create for Katie to request from the town, whatever, take this sign down, do that. Yeah, that,
Okay.
I think it all sounds great, great.
I think, so for next time, if you have ideas as to how to create, what you want in a visual, submit it, let's just share it, and we can talk about it then. So I have 3 minutes. Any old business, new business? Anything
Well,
we
the
need to
old
talk about?
business, I would like to ask, is it all right with the board if I attend the building committee meetings?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I think, yes.
Yes.
Everybody
Thank you
else
very
agree?
much. I appreciate that.
I think you should nominate her in the same way that you nominated Dennis. I think
Okay.
you should,
I nominate Janine. Oh, no, I can't do it. I'm the chair. Somebody else want to do that?
All right, I nominate Janine to represent the Council on Aging on the building committee.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you very much. I appreciate
unanimous.
it.
Okay, anything else? All right, somebody move to adjourn.
I second it.
I
Okay,
move to adjourn.
okay. Everybody,
Mr. Paula seconds.
yeah. Carol, you agree?
Yes,
Dennis?
to adjourn? Oh, yeah.
Janine?
Time to have a nice cup of
This is
tea.
Paula. Okay. We're adjourned.